Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on The Flash Season 7 as well as The Flash Season 8. And for today's video, I will be breaking down this article by Deadline, who has done an interview with showrunner Eric Wallace. And yeah, he talks about some pretty interesting stuff about this season overall, that being Season 7, but also does tease some tidbits in regards to what we should expect going into The Flash Season 8. And we do also get our first teaser for who the main villain could potentially end up being. And some of the things Eric Wallace says during this interview in regards to The Flash Season 8 gets me excited, but then there's some other stuff which gets me pretty worried because it's just because I'm not, liking what I'm hearing from what he says that are bad. Now, I'm not gonna go over the whole interview just because there's a lot and it would take me 30 minutes to go over the whole interview. So for that sake, I will link the interview in the description down below. So for those who want to see the whole interview, it's in the description down below, and I just picked the ones that I think are the most important, and I'll just be going over those. Now, in the next couple of days, I will be putting up my Flash Season 7 overview, the whole season review. So yeah, be sure to stay tuned for that because yeah, I do have mixed feelings about the season, as some of you guys may know, and I want to express my opinion for the overall season because there's some things I liked and then there's a lot I disliked, and yeah, I just want to talk about those in more detail. So yeah, for those who are interested, that video should be up pretty soon. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. But before I go over anything, however, you guys don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. Okay, so this interview starts off with Deadline asking the question, how long have you had the framework for the Flash Season 7 finale in mind? In which Eric Wallace replies, it probably goes back a year, and I guess the biggest part of that was knowing that we wanted to introduce Impulse in the 150th and 151st episodes. When I made the decision that his fate would be tied to the Godspeed's fate, that's when the story started to come together. After that, it was about how big and exciting and action-packed and emotional can we make our season finale this year. The reason I wanted to do this was because I felt that last year we kind of got cut off in the middle of things, and I know how hard it has been for the audience. It was hard for the cast and crew because it felt incomplete, even though it made for a nice cliffhanger, which I'm very happy about. But I wanted to really, with this finale, say thank you to the fans and give them something special to make up for the unintended cliffhanger of last year, which is why this finale has such a close-ended feel. It almost feels in some ways like a series finale, even though it's not, but that was on purpose. That was just a little thank you to the fans, saying thank you for being here during the pandemic. We all know how hard it was, is, and continues to be, and hopefully this helps a little bit. So yeah, in regards to this, I really enjoyed the season finale a lot, as you guys would have seen if you guys watched my review. I know a lot of people had issues with it, and their arguments are understandable, but I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was the best episode of the season. So yeah, it did feel like a thank you message for me, but I do know that some people didn't like it. Were there any plot lines that you thought about taking in a different direction, or story elements you thought about including? Or did the concept for the episode remain the same from your initial breaking of story all the way up to production? And Eric Wallace replies, everything has remained the same. Everything that I wanted to make sure we, as the writing staff, were able to address pretty much got addressed. I think there's only one little thing that's been hanging a little bit, but that's on purpose, and that's Iris's time sickness. That plays a big role into The Flash Season 8. So we wanted to not resolve that in the finale. There was actually a deleted scene from the finale that just didn't quite work for a lot of reasons. It did address Iris's time sickness, but we decided it would be better to save it for the beginning of Season 8. Now, I'm going to be honest, this was a really bad idea. Even though the time sickness scene didn't work, they should have kept it during the finale. Because during episode 17, she literally goes like, oh, Dion was able to stabilize me. And then she was normal after that. She was perfectly fine in episode 17 after that scene, and she was perfectly fine during episode 18. So people would think that she's perfectly fine now, but she isn't. And when we get to season 8, that storyline of her being time sick, it would be forgotten about. So they should have kept the scene to show that it is still there. And I think that would have just been better, as it would be a teaser to season 8 and it would be more, dived into during season 8. So I do wish that they kept that scene. At the end of tonight's episode, Kavanagh's ear Bart, aka the Reverse Flash, vanishes. It's suggested though that he will be back someday. Do you have concrete plans for his return? And Eric Wallace replies, I'm not going to answer that because there's spoilers involved there. I will only say this, the Reverse Flash is a person that keeps his promises. So yeah, this is something I'm really excited about. Reverse Flash is my favorite villain of all time, and I'm just really looking forward to Thawne's next return. I will have a theory video out in the next couple of days about him and how he could potentially return and play out into The Flash Season 8 or in the near future. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that Reverse Flash will return during The Flash Season 8. This ending during the finale is just to set up Dawn's next return, so maybe he could even return during Season 9. We don't know. He will be the main villain for the final season for sure, though. We do already know that, but will he make his return during The Flash Season 8 or 9? We don't know about that. We'll just have to wait and see. But the next question goes as followed. Where are you at with The Flash Season 8? And Eric Wallace replies, the writer's room has just convened. We're a couple of weeks in and we're going to kick the season off, as has already been announced, with our 5-part special event. Now, because it's coming up so fast, I did have to really formulate the story for this 5-part event before we had finished writing Season 7. That was a little crazy. But what it did give us is a great continuity between Season 7 and 8. So again, for example, with Iris's time sickness, we know exactly where we're going with that next year and how it will resolve. The writing's going well. A lot of the same writers and directors will be returning next year. We're very excited, and who knows, there might be a few very unexpected special guest stars, especially on our special event, so we want folks to stay tuned. Now, in regards to the first part, obviously we do have a 5-part event, and it seems like it's going to be a crossover for the first 5 episodes of The Flash Season 8. Well, it's not entirely a crossover, but it's going to have a crossover-like feel. That's what they said before, where we will obviously have some returning superheroes from other shows. For example, Superman, Black Lightning, maybe White Canary, maybe Stargirl, and a couple of others, which I am very excited about. I am very interested to see how all these superheroes play into this special event for The Flash. Now, the second part gets me very worried. Although some of the writers did do pretty good episodes in earlier seasons, these are the exact same people who did The Flash Season 7, and you guys know how unhappy I am about The Flash Season 7, apart from like the Godspeed storyline and a few other episodes. I do not think that Eric Wallace is taking criticisms seriously when he should, because this season, the show was at its worst. You cannot deny that. So to hear this gets me very worried, because the majority of the season was unwatchable. If it was up to me, I would keep the people responsible for episode 1, 2, 4, 5, 12, 15, 16, 17, and 18 and fire all the other writers and get new ones, because episodes 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 were unwatchable. I still did not watch episode 14, but as I said, from what I have heard, 14 was even worse than episode 13. I know some of the same writers did one of those bad episodes as well, but those episodes were just unwatchable. And yeah, it just gets me worried that we're having the same writers as we are having for season 7. What can you tell us about what's to come next season? Eric Wallace replies, I would say this is the season of The Flash where we're making a conscious effort to turn Grant into the Flash from the comic book, the most confident, incredibly powerful, secure team leader. It's really a season for Grant to shine in a way that perhaps he hasn't been able to shine always, and it's very exciting. The question is, how is that wrapped up in his romance with Iris? They're in a really great place by the end of The Flash Season 7, and that will obviously continue, but I think their biggest challenge that they've ever faced lies ahead, and it's going to be tough. It's going to take what I consider to be one of the great love stories in the history of television to survive what they're about to go through, especially in the back half of Season 8. But don't worry, it'll have a happy ending. Now, this gets me worried to an extent. Eric Wallace is someone who is very bad at teasing stuff, because he either overhypes too much, in which that part is understandable, saying that it's for promotional purposes, so I'll let that one slide. But then, he is also someone who never lives up to what he says. For example, when he said, "We're making a conscious effort to turn Grant into the Flash from the comic book, the most confident, incredibly powerful, secure team leader," it's really a season for Grant to shine in a way he perhaps hasn't been able to shine always, and that's very exciting. He said the exact same thing for The Flash Season 7, and Barry was literally making cameos for the majority of the season. And even then, during Season 7, he has not even defeated one villain by himself. So I am not trusting Eric Wells when he says that. But when Eric Wells begins to talk about the challenge the West Allen relationship will be facing, this could potentially be our very first villain teaser for the season, because for Barry and Iris' relationship to face their biggest challenge yet, the only way to do so is to bring someone from their past, and this is when I think we could have Eddie Thawne's version of Cobalt Blue come into play. We do know that a couple of months ago, Rick Cosnett did say that he will eventually return to the Flash as one of the Flash's biggest enemies.
I'm definitely going to come back before the series ends. I don't know how. I'd love to come back as Barry's arch enemy because that would make a perfect arc. Also made more screen time.
So I think it would be pretty cool to have Cobalt Blue as Eddie Thawne for one of the two big bads for The Flash Season 8. And obviously Eric Wells did say the back half of The Flash Season 8, so I think that could potentially be Cobalt Blue. Obviously Iris finding out that Eddie Thawne is alive, but also Eddie finding out that Iris married Barry, I think that could make a pretty cool rivalry. But then the next question is, as Barry and Iris renew their vows, Cecile hints to Joe that she loves weddings, so I imagine their romance will be further explored next season as well. One thing I'll say that's related to that question directly is we're going to see a few more relationships blossoming in season 8 of The Flash than we've ever seen in the last 2 years. I won't say with what characters, but let's say romance is going to be in the air in a very bizarre way. In the middle and back half of our season, it's going to be really fun, and you might even see some old familiar faces from our first few seasons of the show. Now, again, I just find this ridiculous. I don't care if other characters have relationship stories. It's so unnecessary and we do not need it. I am not here for Romeo and Juliet. I want to watch a superhero show. So I do not care at all about more relationships blossoming in season 8. So this does get me worried as well. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Might August Hart aka Godspeed return after finding himself locked up in Iron Heights? Yeah, what happened to Godspeed at the end of the Flash Season 7 finale was a twofold. He was already angry at Impulse, but now, because of the Flash's intervention, he has made a mortal enemy of Godspeed. By saving his kid and saving the day, and saving the town at the end of the Godspeed Civil War, Barry made a terrible, terrible enemy in August Hart, and sooner or later, that's going to bite him. So yeah, this pretty much confirms that August Hart will eventually be returning in some way, shape or form in the near future, in which he definitely should, because we barely saw anything from him. So I do hope we see more of him in the near future, and I'm excited to see what they have with Godspeed, because now he has no idea that Barry Allen is the Flash. They're just, enemies in regards to Godspeed and the Flash. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what's next with Godspeed. Will Season 8 further examine Kristen Kramer following her realization that she's a meta? You should tune in for our first few episodes. You might get the answer right out of the gate. For this, I don't really care about the storyline. They could have just stuck with the finale and I would have been fine with wrapping Kristen Kramer over there. We didn't need to know more about her, but oh well. At least maybe they could explain if it's just meta powers which she can copy, or is it just anyone's powers? Because I remember someone saying that Godspeed isn't really a meta because he was using a velocity formula, but Kristen Kramer was able to copy that Godspeed's powers. So is it that Kramer is able to actually copy anybody's powers? If she sees Superman flying up the sky, can she copy Superman's powers, or does it specifically have to be a metahuman? That's why I'm interested to find out. Will we visit past villains this fall or be introduced to new ones? This year, we'll see. As usual, a combination of both. Our graphic novel format will continue, and one of those graphic novels has a brand new villain to the Flash, to the Arrowverse, which I'm very, very excited about. He's a very scary fellow, and when he shows up, we might dip our toes into the world of horror and supernatural. So it's going to be very fun, but very different for the show. But also, we will see some returning classic Flash villains that we all know and love. So yeah, obviously starting with episode 6 of the season, we will be entering graphic novel number 5. And then during the back half of season 8, that's obviously going to be graphic novel number 6. Now, Eric Wallace does tease that one of the next villains will be a very scary person. Now, that doesn't mean that's going to be a main villain. He just says it's going to be a villain, but then he also mentions a graphic novel, so I'm guessing this is going to be a main villain. So are we finally getting Red Death? He is definitely the villain so many people wanted to see after Godspeed. Godspeed was the most requested villain before we ended up getting Godspeed, and Red Death was up there as well. He has been teased since season 5, so it would be pretty cool to have him as the main villain for one of the graphic novels, and then have Cobalt Blue for the back half of the season. That would make an insane graphic novel, or just an insane season overall. Obviously, it will not be Bruce Wayne. The show will do their own take on Red Death if he was to ever end up becoming the main bad guy for the season. But the next question is, are you planning a crossover event for the end of this year? And Eric Wallace replies, no, at least not at this point. There are still a lot of protocols in place which limit a lot of things we can do as a production. However, with this 5-part event, we want to deliver the same feeling to the audience that you would get with a crossover kind of story. That's really the goal here. To give them something that's not just an ordinary season premiere, something special in terms of the special guests that will be joining us, but also in the story that we're telling. It is a little bigger than usual for The Flash, which is very exciting. I think that it'll give people that sense of scope that you sometimes feel both emotionally and in the action sequences with a crossover, without actually having 20 characters in one scene. So yeah, this is very exciting. I am very excited for this 5-part event. Well, it's gonna be some sort of a crossover feel, so I'm just gonna call it a crossover. But yeah, it is very exciting. I cannot wait to see the special guests we'll be having for these first 5 episodes. Obviously, one of those include the Flash Season 8 premiere as well, so I cannot wait to see how that will play out. But the next question is, so the special event is a temporary replacement for the standard Arrowverse crossover, necessitated by filming protocols. Exactly, and don't get me wrong, we'd all love to do a traditional crossover, but we're just not there yet. With protocols and things, it's just not possible. Now, we are entering the final 2 questions, and they're both linked together, so I'll do the breakdown after what Eric Wallace says from the next 2, which I'm going to mention. Grant Gustin is one of a number of Flash cast members whose contracts end at season 8. Could this mean the show's upcoming season will be its last? And Eric Wallace replies, to be honest with you, I don't know. Let's all find out together, but until I hear differently, everything is fine. You know, I know that's super vague, but it's just the honest truth. Anything can happen in this world. And then Deadline asks, and again it's related to the previous question, do you have a sense of how much more story there is to tell with the show? And Eric Wells replies, I feel this show could run easily for at least several more seasons, and possibly beyond. Because I feel like every season we as a writing staff have to decide between all the wonderful stories we want to tell versus how many episodes we can actually have to tell them. We have so much more that we'd love to show the audience and give to them as a thank you for coming along on this ride with us, but we just can't get to it. That's why I say there's many more seasons worth of stories to tell, at least from our creative perspective. Now, I've been saying this multiple times over and over again whenever these sorts of questions come up, and obviously I'm no writer or anything like that, but it's just common sense. In regards to the fate of the show will continue as long as Grant Gustin is willing to do more seasons. That's just how it works. Any cast member from the show, including Candace Patton, can choose to leave and it won't matter one bit. As long as Grant wants to stay, then the show will just keep getting more seasons. And as Eric Wallace says, the show can easily continue for a few more seasons, which is pretty cool. And he's obviously saying this if Grant is willing to do more. So if Grant's willing to do more, we're simply getting more, whether it's season 9, season 10, or beyond, which I think would be too much. I think season 9 would be the ideal end for the show, but I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to tell me in the comment section down below if you guys are excited for The Flash Season 8. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.